Gregory, a design engineer with an analytical mind and hands capable of creating the most complex mechanisms, always believed that in his own life, all the gears turned with perfect precision. At 38, his confident gaze and the light gray at his temples, which he considered added charm, complemented his structured world. His wife, Emily, a bright and charismatic real estate agent with an enchanting smile, was the oil that ensured the smooth operation of the intricate mechanism called family. 10 years of marriage, like 10 years of a perfectly functioning Swiss watch. Their daughter Sophie, their most precious treasure, at just 8 years old, was already showing remarkable intelligence and artistic talent. Their story had begun like something out of a romantic movie. A chance meeting in a cozy cafe, a sudden downpour forcing them to stay and talk. Emily, with her cascade of fiery red hair and freckles dusting her nose, captivated Gregory with her spontaneity. Usually reserved and laconic, he felt light and free with her, as if they had known each other their entire lives. A wedding, the birth of Sophie, the purchase of their apartment, everything unfolded like a carefully scripted scene from a happy family life. Gregory worked hard, providing for the family, while Emily created warmth and comfort in their home. They traveled together, went to theaters, spent weekends in the countryside surrounded by friends and family. Photos of their happy faces decorated the fireplace mantel, silently witnessing the harmony reigning in their home. Gregory was proud of his wife, her success at work, her ability to connect with people, her taste and style. All of it filled him with a deep sense of satisfaction. He loved watching her move around the house, humming a tune, playing with Sophie, seeing her eyes shine with happiness. It felt like he had won the jackpot in the lottery of life, and he cherished his prize. Emily, in turn, basked in the love and attention of her husband. She valued his reliability, his care, his ability to solve any problem. He was the rock behind which she felt completely safe. Their evenings were filled with warmth and coziness. After dinner, once Sophie was in bed, they would sit by the fireplace, drink tea, and share the day's news. Gregory talked about his projects, Emily about her clients. Sometimes they simply sat in silence, enjoying each other's company, listening to the crackling fire and the cat's soft purring. It seemed nothing could disrupt this harmony. Nothing could shake their happiness. They were sure their love could withstand any trials, that their family was an unbreakable fortress. Their daily life followed a smooth, well-oiled routine. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee in the morning, Sophie's ringing laughter as she rushed around the apartment, getting ready for school. Gregory, always punctual and collected, checked her backpack, kissed Emily goodbye, and left for work. Emily, after seeing Sophie off, took time for herself. Light makeup, stylish clothes. She always looked impeccable. Her job required mobility and sociability, and she excelled at it. She conducted negotiations brilliantly, convinced clients, closed profitable deals. The days flew by in a whirlwind of responsibilities. Gregory spent his time in his design bureau, bent over blueprints, solving complex engineering problems. He was passionate about his work, finding creative satisfaction in it. Emily, meanwhile, moved around the city, showing apartments to potential buyers, answering endless calls, handling organizational issues. They called each other several times a day, exchanging short phrases. "How's your day?" "Everything's fine, love. See you tonight." Those few words were the invisible bridge connecting them throughout the day. Evenings brought the family back together. Weekends were sacred, a time for rest and togetherness. They often went out of town enjoying fresh air, grilling steaks, taking long walks in the woods. Emily loved gardening, helping Gregory's mother with the flower beds. Gregory preferred fishing or simply lying in a hammock, reading a book. Sophie played with other children, rode her bike, enjoyed being outdoors. Their life seemed like a perfect picture from a glossy magazine. Their friends envied their harmony and mutual understanding. They themselves believed their happiness was boundless and eternal. But beneath this perfect picture, the first cracks had already begun to form, imperceptible to outsiders, but tangible to those within the family. The first warning signs had already sounded, but no one paid attention. They were all too absorbed in their ideal life to notice the approaching storm. The first cracks appeared subtly, like thin threads of a spider web slowly weaving their way through everything. Gregory, immersed in work on a new project, initially paid little attention to the changes in his wife's behavior. Late nights at work, frequent client meetings in the evenings, excuses about traffic and complicated deals, all of it was easy to dismiss, but his intuition whispered that something was wrong. Emily started silencing her phone too often during business meetings. She seemed too distracted, too deep in thought in the evenings. The sparkle in her eyes faded too quickly when she looked at him. One evening, as he was looking through old vacation photos, Gregory came across a picture taken a year ago. In the photo, Emily was laughing, hugging him, her eyes shining with happiness. He suddenly realized he hadn't seen that sparkle in a long time. That pure, sincere joy in her gaze was gone. His heart clenched, as if warning him of the coming disaster. He started replaying the past months in his mind, analyzing Emily's behavior, and the puzzle began to form an ominous picture. A slip of the tongue here, a casual comment there, and then confirmation. Emily had someone else. The point of no return came with an accidental phone call. Emily had left her phone at home, and when Gregory heard a familiar ringtone, he answered. On the other end was a man's voice, too affectionate, too intimate for a business partner. A short conversation, full of ambiguous hints and sweet nicknames, shattered Gregory's world into pieces. He recognized the voice. It was David, Emily's former college boyfriend, the very David she had supposedly long forgotten and never wanted to see again. The world Gregory had built with such care collapsed. Everything he believed in, everything he had painstakingly created over the years, turned out to be an illusion. His wife's betrayal was a stab in the back, the pain unbearable, his soul torn to shreds. He couldn't believe Emily was capable of such deception, that she had so carelessly destroyed their love, their family, their happiness. That night he didn't sleep. He wandered aimlessly through the apartment like a caged animal, trying to find answers to the questions that tormented him. How had this happened? Why had Emily done this? What had he done wrong? And the most important question, what now? The answer was clear. Divorce. He couldn't forgive her. He couldn't live with this lie. His decision was firm and unwavering. After a sleepless night of agonizing contemplation, Gregory made up his mind. No compromises, no second chances. The betrayal was too deep, the wound too painful. He acted methodically, coldly, as if he were working on a complex engineering project. First, he called a lawyer, an old college friend, and arranged a meeting. Then he began gathering the necessary documents, marriage certificate, bank statements. He functioned automatically, like a robot, shutting off his emotions to keep himself from breaking. The next step was cutting Emily off from their shared finances. He transferred a significant portion of their money to a separate account, leaving her only enough for basic expenses. He knew she was used to a comfortable life, and this was one of the few levers of control he had left. He didn't want revenge, but he wasn't going to finance her new life with her lover. The hardest part was deciding how to tell Sophie. He didn't want to traumatize their daughter, but he also couldn't hide the truth. He rehearsed the conversation over and over, choosing words carefully, trying to soften the blow. In the end, he decided to wait until everything with Emily was settled. He knew Sophie loved them both, and the divorce would be hard on her. He rented a small one-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of town, far from their family home, and the memories that now only brought pain. Before leaving, he left Emily a letter, short and cold. No accusations, no resentment, just a statement of fact. Their marriage was over. Closing the door behind him, he felt a heavy weight lift from his shoulders. It was done. Now he had to learn to live again, piece together his shattered world, heal his wounds, and find meaning in a future that now seemed empty and colorless. Gregory took Sophie to his parents' house, unsure of how to proceed and telling her that he needed to leave for work for a while. Emily spent the weekend with David and her friend Lauren at a countryside resort, trying to push away thoughts of Gregory and his letter while enjoying attention and flattery. Champagne, late breakfasts, spa treatments. It was supposed to help her forget about her problems and embrace the new life she had long planned for herself. David, as always, was charming and gallant, showering her with gifts and promises of a wonderful future. But the idyllic weekend quickly turned into a disaster. On Saturday evening, while the group was enjoying dinner at the resort's restaurant, a woman stormed in, David's wife, Rebecca. She was furious, and without caring about the audience, she launched into a full-blown scene. Tears, accusations, shouts about betrayal. Emily instinctively looked at David, expecting him to protect her. Instead, he froze, visibly panicked. Then, without a word, he got up and left, abandoning her to deal with the mess on her own. Lauren, always one to avoid confrontation, also quickly disappeared, leaving Emily face to face with Rebecca's rage. To make matters worse, another man entered the scene. Connor, a large, intimidating figure who looked ready to break David in half. As it turned out, David was not only a cheater, but a con man. He had borrowed money from acquaintances and vanished, leaving a trail of unpaid debts. Rebecca, tired of his schemes, had hired a private investigator who tracked him to the resort. The confrontation escalated, turning into a public scandal, and Emily found herself in the center of a nightmare. The weekend that was supposed to mark the beginning of her new life ended in complete humiliation. Gregory, meanwhile, found himself in unfamiliar territory. Life in a small, rented apartment felt strange. The silence, which he had once valued, now pressed down on him, reminding him of the void left in his life. He tried to fill it with work, spending almost all his time at the engineering firm, buried in designs and calculations. Work became his refuge, a distraction from the pain and betrayal. But he never forgot about Sophie, speaking with her every day, ensuring that she didn't feel abandoned. One evening, as he was returning home from work, he witnessed an upsetting scene. A young woman, Olivia, was arguing with a pharmacist, desperately pleading for an expensive medication for her nephew. She looked exhausted, on the verge of tears. Moved by her despair, Gregory stepped in and paid for the medicine. Olivia, with tears of gratitude in her eyes, explained her situation. She was raising her nephew alone after his parents had died in an accident, doing everything she could to care for him. That moment changed something in Gregory. Helping Olivia gave him a sense of purpose he hadn't felt in a long time. He began seeing her and her nephew regularly, supporting them emotionally and financially, taking the boy to the park, reading with him, playing chess. Their interactions brought warmth into his life again, slowly pulling him out of the darkness. Olivia was kind, intelligent, and resilient. A woman who had faced immense hardships, yet still managed to find joy in life. Gregory admired her strength and perseverance. Over time, their friendship deepened, and he found himself feeling something he hadn't expected: hope. But Emily's downward spiral continued. Her once flawless reputation was in ruins. After the incident at the resort, rumors spread rapidly, and her career as a real estate agent took a hit. Clients hesitated to work with her, former colleagues distanced themselves, and even Lauren, once her closest friend, kept her at arm's length, unwilling to get caught up in Emily's mess. Worse, David disappeared entirely, vanishing without a trace. Left alone, Emily realized too late that she had thrown everything away for a man who was nothing but an illusion. Gregory, on the other hand, was rebuilding. His relationship with Olivia developed naturally, without pressure. They spent more and more time together, sharing their thoughts, their past struggles, their hopes for the future. For the first time in a long while, Gregory felt peace. He was no longer haunted by betrayal, no longer drowning in resentment. He had found a new sense of belonging. But before he could fully move on, there was still one challenge he had to face: his daughter. Sophie had struggled with her parents' separation, missing her father deeply. Gregory made it a priority to spend as much time with her as possible, going to the movies, playing board games, walking in the park. He explained to her gently that while he and her mother were no longer together, he would always love her and be there for her. Despite her young age, Sophie understood. She could see how much her father was hurting, and deep down, she knew who was to blame. Emily, however, had lost her former confidence. She no longer fought for her marriage, no longer tried to deny her mistakes. She understood now that the damage was irreparable, that the bridges she had burned could never be rebuilt. She had destroyed everything good in her life, and now she was paying the price. Gregory looked at her with a mix of pity and disdain. He saw how far she had fallen and felt nothing but relief that he had walked away in time. The divorce hearing was tense but decisive. Emily, dressed in a plain black dress, looked pale and lost. The brightness that had once made her stand out had faded. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, and in them, there was nothing but despair. She knew she had made a terrible mistake, that she had lost the most valuable things in her life. David was gone, her career was in shambles, and her social circle had abandoned her. Gregory, in contrast, was composed and unwavering. He had made his decision and would see it through. Before the hearing, Emily had tried to talk to him, to express her remorse, but he had ignored her. Forgiveness was impossible. Trust was gone. He sat through the proceedings, unmoved as she sobbed her way through her statement. The judge listened, then ruled in favor of the divorce. The marriage was officially over. Gregory walked out of the courtroom feeling lighter, as if a great weight had been lifted off his shoulders. He was free. Emily, however, faced nothing but loneliness. She had no job, no partner, no support system. Her life had become a bleak, empty existence. She often thought back to the life she had taken for granted, the warmth of their home, the security of Gregory's love, the laughter of their daughter. But it was gone. She had traded it all for a fantasy, and now she was left with nothing. Gregory, meanwhile, was moving forward. His career was flourishing, his relationship with Olivia growing stronger. They spent weekends together, exploring new places, enjoying the little moments. He found himself smiling more, appreciating life again. Sophie, too, was adjusting. When the time felt right, Gregory introduced her to Olivia. They met at a quiet cafe in the park, where they could talk without pressure. At first, Sophie was cautious, but Olivia's kindness won her over. Soon they were chatting easily, bonding over shared stories. Gregory watched them with quiet happiness, knowing he had made the right choice. But Emily wasn't ready to let go. One day, as Gregory and Sophie sat at the cafe, Emily appeared unexpectedly. She stopped in her tracks, her face draining of color when she saw them. She hesitated, then slowly walked over to their table. Her eyes were filled with pain as she looked at Gregory and Olivia sitting together, Sophie laughing between them. "Greg," she whispered, "we need to talk." Gregory met her gaze, his expression unreadable. "There's nothing left to talk about, Emily," he said calmly. She looked at Sophie as if hoping for support, but the little girl turned away, nestling closer to Olivia. Emily's face crumpled. Without another word, she turned and walked out of the cafe. Gregory watched her go, feeling nothing. No anger, no regret. He had already left her behind. He turned back to Olivia and Sophie, smiling as he reached for his daughter's hand. The past was behind him. His new life had just begun.